Good evening. I'm News Channel 13 meteorologist Paul Cayano, and we're joined by our entire First Warning weather team, Rachel Teedy, Reed Kisselbeck, Christina Talamo, and Neil Estant. And of course, our most senior member, Bob Kovacic, chief meteorologist at WNYT, who's retiring, and this is one of his final projects here with us before his retirement.
This is a News Channel 13 special presentation, October Surprise, presented by Dr. Gerald Benjamin and Bob's Diner.
They've caused several buildings to collapse. Right now there isn't much they can do other than prevent fires. But once a crews get started, they have their work cut out for them.
This storm is a freak. This is the sort of storm that comes along once every 150 years.
The traffic lights here in the city of Hudson aren't working.
I'm going to be here till this is over with.
The baby was cold. You know, he was getting sniffles.
There wasn't anything open. The power was out. Sleep probably in the same bed and keep warm and put our hats on and hope for the best tonight anyhow.
We'd ask parents to keep their children indoors if at all possible.
News Channel 13 was there covering that snow as it hit the capital region. We covered the snow itself as well as the cleanup days after, and we found the original newscasts from our coverage of that day. During the storm, there were downed trees and power lines throughout the area, so as you can see, we showed people stuck in traffic after a semi-truck was stuck. We covered the cleanup efforts and those who stayed in shelters for the night because their homes had no power.
What are you doing without electricity?
Nothing. It's getting colder. It's about 56 degrees inside the house now, and I'm waiting for the power to come back on.
It's almost warmer out here?
Yeah, that's why we came outside. I think it's a little warmer outside.
The setup that led to this intense early season snowstorm looked similar to this, with a low pressure system forming along the coast over the Atlantic Ocean, with warmer ocean temperatures and higher pressure with colder air off to the north and west over Canada. The steep temperature gradient between the two, or the big change in temperature between the two areas, ultimately led to the rapid intensification of the storm, with unusually cold air being pulled into the capital district.
In the days leading up to this storm, high temperatures were averaging near 60, with overnight lows never going below 39 degrees. The early morning low, October 4th, never hit freezing, sitting at 33 degrees. This had a major impact on the snow ratio. You probably heard about the 10-to-1 ratio rule, meaning 10 inches of snow equals 1 inch of rain. While this is considered the rule of thumb for snow to liquid ratios, it is not always accurate. If you have temperatures near or just above freezing, you will likely see a heavy wet snow, meaning your snow ratio is lower than 10-to-1, probably closer to 7-to-1.
We still get surprises today, but they're fewer and far between, and it's not as extreme. But the problem is, you can get a forecast now that'll tell you out 10 days ahead of time there's a possibility of a storm. And more often than not, it verifies. It may be on day 9 or day 11, and the track may be slightly different. But the idea that there's going to be an event maybe on day 10 can't be dismissed as a fairy tale like it was 30 years ago.
We sat down with Chief Meteorologist Bob Kovacic to learn about the changes he's seen while forecasting in the capital region.
We used to have technology called a teletype and a facsimile machine that brought in weather maps on a fax piece of paper, and used to use that and look at that, or a teletype which gave us the hourly weather from different places.
As he tracked the science, news crews were sent across the region.
I was a kid. I mean, I had only been on the air in this market maybe a year or two, so this was really my first big snowstorm, October or otherwise.
It was easy to understand what other people were going through because we were going through it too.
I lived in Boston Lake at the time, and I was a clerk for Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation back then. I shared a 12-hour shift with another clerk, and we worked 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and we admitted crews basically. There were no computers, there were no internet at the time, everything was on paper, and so we had to track all the crews that were coming in and being assigned to the different work.
It's an impactful storm, and that means not only you count the amount of snow, but how it affected life, how it affected people's day or week or beyond. And I think that's why it's on the list. And I think that's why we voted for it.